What's hood with you? This is Opinionated 3000. I'm your host, Mr. Opinionated. Let's jump right in and see what they got cooking.
A judge's husband charged with driving drunk.
Uh-oh.
Hours later, the phone calls started. I just want to ask you about the phone calls you made to the Bennettsville Police Department.
No one persuaded you or used their authority to persuade you to drop the ticket.
Once you start digging and you start asking questions, the more questions you start to have.
1 year ago, Bennettsville City Police charged a Marlboro County probate judge's husband with drinking and driving. But within days, the officer who locked him up dismissed the charge. Why? The chief believed it was influence from members.
Why? Do we have to ask why? Y'all know why. The judge was doing him a solid. Letting him out. That's why. That's her man. She don't get a pass though. If she, if she was nah, she don't get no pass. Period. There's not no if. You hooked your husband up. Not to say you ain't supposed to though, but that's what happened.
Of the county judicial system, so he asked SLED to investigate. And now 1 year later, we know exactly what SLED did and didn't do. Here's Chief Investigative Reporter Jody Barr with Under the Influence, a Queen City News investigation.
Can you see if you got a highway patrolman in the area? I'm on 1541 behind a white colored Tahoe. The excessive speed right now, he's riding in the grass.
Current highway patrol, everybody's in it, Darlington County, but if you would like them to come this way, they can.
Last February,
If you could notify the city units, this Tahoe's coming in running probably 80 miles an hour on 15 now. We're passing the high school.
City units, you got a Tahoe coming into the city about 80 miles an hour all over the road, got a county unit behind it.
a Marlboro County Sheriff's deputy tailed a white Tahoe 8 miles from a nightclub into the Bennettsville city limits.
Did they just tell him, or did they light him up, or they just followed him? How far do you have to follow somebody before you know that they drunk? And y'all followed him for 8 miles. I wonder if they already knew that that's the judge's car.
John, if it's too dangerous, go ahead and blue light. If it's going to be, feel like it might cause a wreck, go ahead and blue light it.
Yeah.
We're running 70 right now. We're coming into 45. Go ahead and light him up. Get him stopped.
70 and a
I got
45.
a city unit in front of me now.
Quit playing.
The radio traffic shows the deputy had reasons to stop him, but didn't. Not until Jermaine McCoy rolled into town. The dash camera shows Marlboro County Sheriff's Deputy Josh Hatcher was the first to confront McCoy, while 2 Bennettsville police officers stood by. As the men talked, the Bennettsville police supervisor decided someone needed to investigate whether McCoy was impaired.
Central 9. Go ahead and notify us. People got HP close.
209, I already gave them a 21, and they're nowhere.
Is that a camera over there? This nigga on cops. Man.
Near Marlboro County at this moment.
The deputy, certified in DUI detection, did not perform the field sobriety test. So the city called in its DUI officer, Jonathan Beggs, to test McCoy. 5 minutes later, the test ended and Officer Beggs arrested him.
Good.
Beggs charged McCoy with driving under the influence, and the ride to jail also gave the officer additional evidence.
You want to know something?
You've said it.
Okay, you want to put that on
You
my...
said it.
I'll take it.
Okay, good.
You know what I'll say? Yes. If we...
Yeah, man. I was home. The club had a couple drinks. Going straight to the house.
This nigga confessing. He looked drunk as hell. The more he talked, the more of a hole he gonna dig.
Trying to eat my damn chicken wings. That's why I was swerving. Is that what it was? Yeah. Damn 10 chicken wings in the car.
Inside the jail, Beggs walked McCoy to the breathalyzer room, but McCoy refused to blow.
Now, you know it's going to automatically suspend your license, right?
I know.
Where again McCoy admits to drinking.
I come from the Essence Club, so you know I've been drinking, man. That's that trap, man.
Well, I don't know where you came from, man.
Beggs was across.
Why is he refusing to blow, but telling him how much he was drinking? That don't make no sense. You might as well blow.
Town on another call when Deputy Josh Hatcher first encountered McCoy. Beggs' supervisor, Sergeant Dozier Rames, called Beggs to the scene. Beggs, certified in breathalyzer operation and a field sobriety test instructor, went to the scene and did what he was asked to do, all while the deputy stood by watching. But why didn't the deputy handle this from the start? We later learned he didn't have a body camera or dash camera, and Hatcher and every other deputy was under a directive from the sheriff to avoid working traffic cases.
We're only running 3, maybe 4 people at night. And if somebody gets tied up on a call for 2 or 3 hours, then I only got maybe 2 people then working the entire county, and it puts us in a strain when we do that.
Although the Highway Patrol claimed no trooper
sense.
was anywhere around that night, the dispatch recordings from officers on scene show that might not be true. 18 minutes into the stop.
I know you advised we didn't have a trooper in the county, but we just saw one pull off right here at the Sprint store ain't been 5 minutes ago.
Marlboro County Sheriff Larry McNeil says although his deputy could have stopped McCoy, the deputy did nothing wrong. From what you've learned about this stop, what you heard in that dispatch recording, do you still believe, sitting here today, that that was a lawful, appropriate stop that night?
Yeah. Based on what he said, what I heard, it was a lawful stop.
But Judge Renika McCoy didn't think so. She's the elected Marlboro County probate judge and Jermaine McCoy's wife. When the sun rose the next morning, Judge Renika McCoy was on the phone with Bennettsville's Assistant Police Chief, Greg Williams. You say you were concerned about those calls. What would be concerning about that?
You have to take into consideration there's some professional boundaries there that exist for a reason, which is...
No. That professional boundary thing should be illegal. She should be charged, and the chief that she talked to should be charged in some kind of way. Come on now. Professional boundaries that you can't cross. Tell me that don't just sound illegal.
Is exactly why I guess we're here today.
Bennettsville Police Chief Kevin Miller had no idea the probate judge called his second in charge the day of her husband's DUI arrest because his own men never told him. The chief also had no idea the probate judge spoke with his patrol lieutenant Sammy Crosland asking about the DUI stop. Again, because neither of his right-hand men told him anything about any of this.
I call
Not
bullshit.
until we came to town 3 weeks after this DUI arrest, after a tipster asked us to investigate. How did you find out that this DUI arrest ever happened in the first place?
Ironically enough, as in the past, you've been the one to bring it to my attention.
That tipster, I'm assuming, was another cop. Because who else would have knew about it? So I'm assuming it was a cop trying to get the judge into some type of trouble. Because who else would know the behind the scenes working on this traffic stop other than the cops? I could be wrong, but that's what it seemed like to me.
Attention.
What did you do once you found out?
Well, immediately, as I have in the past, I started digging fast.
Miller says he also later learned both Judge McCoy and her father, Judge Grover McQueen, had both not only discussed the case with his officers, but with Sheriff Larry McNeil as well. Judge McQueen is the lead city judge and a county magistrate judge.
I did receive a phone call, yes.
And was that from Judge Renika McCoy?
Yes.
Did she ever ask you to intervene or to do something on her behalf?
No, she did not.
A day or so after the sheriff met with Judge McCoy inside the courthouse, her father, Judge Grover McQueen, also questioned the sheriff about the stop.
We kind of ran into each other and saw the magistrate, and he said, look, I needed to talk to you about something. I said, okay. He said, I've got some concerns about one of your officers about speeding and writing tickets without a speed measuring device.
Within 4 days of McCoy's arrest, with 2 judges questioning law enforcement about the stop, Officer Jonathan Beggs dismissed the DUI charge, something the chief called highly unusual. The chief wanted to know whether those calls pressured his officer to drop the case. Or do you believe at this point you've been told the whole story and you know the whole story sitting here today?
No, but I think we'll find out eventually.
Is this supposed to happen in the police business?
No, but unfortunately it does sometimes.
Coming up, the chief asked the state's top law enforcement agency for help.
The reason I believe I am where I am today is because of, me always trying to do the right thing, even though it's not the popular thing. In this case, it's definitely not the popular thing.
And why is that?
When you look at all the potential people involved in this, even in your own department, it definitely can rattle some cages.
Did you find it odd that a member of the court...
If the judge was, I know I keep doing this. If the judge was white, do y'all think we'd be watching this video right now? The public never would have heard about it. They probably never would have got that that phone call from the tip from who was definitely a cop. That part.
All the potential people involved in this, even in your own department, it definitely can rattle some cages.
Did you find it odd that a member of the court here in Marlboro County was calling you about her husband's DUI charge?
Honestly, I looked at it, she was being a concerned wife.
And after a single interview...
But she's still
so
a
again,
judge.
No one persuaded you or used their authority to persuade you to drop the ticket.
SLED decided to close its investigation. Do you believe that was thorough?
I will look at the case and tell you once I look at it.
No, it wasn't thorough because they all get paid by the same place. No, they look at the cops that they're investigating like they're one of their own, like it's family. So they're not going to do a thorough investigation, period. There's no way you get a thorough investigation from this. It's going to be one hand washes the other.
Under the Influence continues after the break.
No living being should ever eat processed food for every single meal of their life.
Come back to McCoy. Subject, he's clear, no suspensions.
Within hours of this traffic stop last February, Marlboro County Probate Judge Renika McCoy was on the phone with Bennettsville Police Department brass. What do you know about that?
It's very unusual. It's not something that you see very often. However, that's the other part of this mystery, right? Is why.
Chief Kevin Miller says because of the people involved, he could not investigate this himself. He called SLED for help to figure out whether those calls had anything to do with causing his officer to drop the prosecution of Jermaine McCoy. I appreciate you meeting with us.
Ain't no problem. I ain't got nothing to hide.
Lieutenant Sammy Crosland was the second officer Judge Renika McCoy contacted after the judge first called his boss, Assistant Chief Greg Williams. Did you find it odd that a member of the court here in Marlboro County was calling you about her husband's DUI charge?
Honestly, I looked at it, she was being a concerned wife, but she never threw a title out to me. And if that would have been present, I really would have called on that. Like, just because you probate don't mean that you can get this dismissed. And I told her, I said,
you're full of shit.
I said, I'll look into it to see if he was right in what he did and wrong what he did.
Crosland kept his promise. He found Officer Jonathan Beggs and questioned him about the stop not once, but at least 2 times.
I talked to Jonathan Beggs about it. He kind of felt some kind of way about it. And I was like, well, you got to do something about it because that's your case.
Crosland told Beggs the city had no business making the stop in the first place, arguing the deputy should have handled his own investigation.
How can you stand in court and tell the judge, yeah, Your Honor, we observed Mr. McCoy coming in Sidland and Spencefield, traveling at high rate of speed, and he was drunk. Beggs got called off from another location to the location after they stopped. So when you pulled up, what did you see? Nothing. But you want to get him out the car and feel sobriety. What about the other officer that was there? What about the deputy that saw it? Get him a... But we don't want it.
He probably
Could that deputy?
he probably already told them who he was. Like, do y'all know who my wife is? As he was eating chicken.
Would he have been called in as a witness to establish?
He could have. Not saying he was wrong in what he did. He did what the supervisor told him to do. But sometimes you got to be smart.
Do you think that call from the judge, your conversation with this officer, put some pressure on him to make a decision he otherwise would not have made?
To be honest, Mr. Ball, I don't think so, because in his mind, he was already going to drop, because he already told me when we talked about it.
SLED agreed to open an investigation into the chief's concerns of misconduct last April. We held off publishing this report then to give SLED time and space to work.
We're here to discuss a situation in regards to a DUI citation that you have dropped.
Officer Jonathan Beggs was the first person SLED interviewed. Beggs, a field training officer and a certified field sobriety test instructor, told SLED he made fatal errors in his testing of McCoy, and he forgot the most basic step of any arrest.
Once you placed him under arrest, did you read a Miranda or any type of administrative anything?
I did not.
Oh,
all right.
They got to let it go.
You're supposed to, yes. Told him the breath test part. Forgot the Miranda right part.
So after you wrote that ticket that night, you already...
But that's just a reason. They can't say we dropped the case because his wife's a judge. They have to come up with a reason, and that's the reason they came up with.
You made your mind you were going to drop that?
Probably about 45 minutes after.
Okay.
I was like, that was horrible.
So Sammy didn't ask you to drop the ticket?
No.
Greg didn't ask you to drop the ticket?
No.
No one asked you to drop the ticket?
No.
We're here just to make sure that you weren't intimidated, and that you received...
I don't think he was intimidated, but that is pressure. Just getting the call from the judge, period, is pressure. It might not be, it's probably kind of intimidating too. Like the judge, like, well, what you gonna do with the situation? So that's when he started thinking about, I didn't read his Miranda. You a cop, man. That's one thing that you definitely do. And you know it'll get thrown out if you don't. So, of course, that's what they're going to say. But that's like somebody at KFC forgetting they supposed to fry chicken. That's the Miranda rights is like the number one thing that you know you're supposed to do for every stop. And they never said he was a rookie. But even rookies know you don't mess around with that.
Nothing in favor for you to drop this ticket.
I would, whether I took it to court or dropped it, I was getting nothing either way. Like, I don't know her. I don't know her husband. And I don't care about Judge McQueen. Judge McQueen's a great guy.
Right.
But you couldn't do nothing for me that would benefit.
Right.
Like, I'm leaving.
Well, I think that's kind of one of those things is they want to make sure that no one made any promises to you to give you any favors. They want to make sure you didn't commit misconduct.
No.
Okay. Meaning as in taking any bribes or favors or...
No.
Would not reading the Miranda rights be misconduct? So he committed misconduct either way you look at it.
Somebody said they'd look out for you, they'd help you do whatever.
Like how? You know what I'm saying? How are you going to look out for me? Like how?
But the main thing is no matter what anyone may have offered you, you would not have accepted it because it'd be criminally wrong.
It'd be criminally wrong, but again, no one offered me anything. So
just want to make sure I get that clarified.
Yeah.
This was your court. Grover McQueen is the chief city judge and also a Marlboro County magistrate. He's also Judge Renika McCoy's father and Jermaine McCoy's father-in-law. Crosland told us he never talked with Judge McQueen about the case. Were you aware at the time of who her father was?
McQueen? Yes, I worked with Judge McQueen for years because I've been here with the city for 26 years. Yes, sir. I extensively know him. I know he's the magistrate with the county and he works part-time with us, yes, but I knew that would have been a conflict of interest for him getting in it because that's his son-in-law, and I know he won't touch that. And I haven't talked to him anyway, personally, about that anyway, and I've seen him, spoke to him, But for
What you mean you know he won't touch that? He made the phone call. She called and her father called. He was touching it. His fingerprints all over it.
having a conversation about the whole thing, nah, I know he's smarter than that. I know he can't touch that. I know he can't. He's smarter than that.
But Lieutenant Crosland told SLED he did talk to Judge McQueen.
If I was there, I think I would have handled it a different way. But like I told Judge McQueen, I just don't understand how we can testify something that we
He put his foot in his mouth.
And that was in the conversation. He didn't say too much about it because that was his son-in-law. He kind of like, wanted to get some answers himself. He said he was going.
He just said he didn't talk to Judge McQueen. He just said that. So it's obvious it's a cover-up.
Talk to the people at the sheriff's office, and I said that might be a good idea because at this point I don't even know myself why we got involved. But after that was it.
I had nothing to do with the ticket, nothing, and would not have to do it because it's my son-in-law.
When we interviewed Judge Grover McQueen, he never mentioned talking to Crosland.
I didn't have any contact with the officer at all about it. The officer Biggs, who's no longer there, I had no contact with him.
It's
no
not
discussion.
lying.
I have not discussed it with the police chief or anything about the ticket.
But that changed the next business day after our interview. The SLED file shows the judge called a meeting with the chief, Assistant Chief Greg Williams, and Lieutenant Sammy Crosland, a meeting the chief walked out of. The chief told SLED the judge was intimidating and threatening. Instead of interviewing the judge, SLED Captain Glenn Wood called McQueen to counsel him. McQueen admitted the meeting got heated and told SLED he understood the perception of judges questioning the officers, and SLED wrote McQueen felt better about everything after talking with the SLED captain. Good morning, Judge McCoy. Hey,
the SLED captain told them what they got to say to get out of this situation. Duh. Like I said, they on the same team. They will not get thoroughly investigated like anybody else would.
Yeah, I'm Jody with Queen City News out of Charlotte. Judge McCoy would never schedule an interview with us to explain her side of this. The SLED file shows agents never interviewed her or pulled communication records to get to the bottom of what the police chief wanted investigated. And I just want to ask you about the phone calls you made to the Bennettsville Police Department. Can you tell us what the purpose of those calls were?
Jody, what did my interview say on my emails? I'm at work.
Judge McCoy sent us an email 10 days before we found her at the courthouse, denying our request to interview her. She said she'd answer our questions in writing, but never did. The judge then sent this disposition form, showing days after her husband's DUI charge, the officer dropped it. Can you tell us the purpose of those calls? Was it to pressure those officers
Not at all.
to drop the tickets?
Not at all. Just for them to look into it or the wrong, the interview the stop was illegal,
But the Bennettsville Police Department, that DUI charge from your husband was dropped within days of your phone call.
Did you talk to the Bennettsville Police Department? Okay. When I'm going into work.
Do you see how this looks at this point?
How?
I mean, this ticket was dropped in record time, man.
Contact my attorney.
Okay, you can give him my number. SLED's investigation spanned 3 months, but a note in the case file shows just 1 week into the investigation, at the end of this first interview with Officer Beggs, Captain Glenn Wood decided SLED would close the investigation as unfounded. Beggs and Crosland were the only ones of the 10 people involved in this case to be interviewed. SLED never formally questioned either of the judges. Good morning, sir. Here we are again in a parking lot.
Yeah, I see that. When you have these woke revolutions, it requires all of us at some point to say, no, not going to do this.
That's your favorite place to meet people, I believe.
Well, that's what I have to do when you guys won't respond to interview requests. SLED Chief Mark Hill ignored our request to interview him about his agent's handling of the case. Here's every communication I've tried to give to your office.
All right.
You'll see I've marked no response.
Get 'em.
There's another no response.
I'll be happy to look at it.
If a police chief is making an allegation that he believes that a probate judge making a phone call to his department led to...
I'm not going to answer any questions about this, okay? I'll be happy to find out, and I'll be happy to try and get you a response if the case is not still pending.
It's closed. We've got the records from you guys.
Well, if you've got the records in, I'll be happy to look into it, get back to you, and let you know something.
Will you schedule an interview with us?
I don't know whether I will or not.
What would keep you from
I
doing
think
it?
you know I don't do a lot of interviews.
Yeah, we don't ask you a lot either until
yeah.
we feel like it's absolutely necessary.
Well, again, I'll make that decision
I like
once I
dude.
look at it and see what I.
That
see what I
reporter
like about it.
We
on
told
it.
the chief the questions we had about his agent's handling of the investigation, so he'd know what to look for in his review. Your agent's investigation shows they never interviewed the judge. Only 2 people got interviewed and they closed the case. And the question we have is, when you review that, do you believe that was thorough?
I will look at the case and tell you once I look at it.
Even though SLED says it found no evidence of
He might tell
misconduct,
you.
Sheriff Larry McNeil believes something more fundamental was violated.
Sometimes it's incumbent upon family members to understand the roles that they have to play as well when certain people in certain positions.
That the appearance of something
Cannot,
can mean a lot to the public.
it does. And even with good intentions, sometimes things can go crazy.
SLED Chief Mark Kill never agreed to that interview. His press office sent us a statement calling their agent's work a thorough, unbiased, and professional investigation, finding no evidence of misconduct.
Who audits the people that are supposed to make sure that the police are doing what they're supposed to be doing properly? Who audits SLED? Because it's obvious here that, yeah, she hooked her husband up 100%. Then you got dudes lying on camera saying he didn't talk to the man after he just said that he talked to him.
Kill never addressed our questions about only interviewing 2 of 10 people involved in this case. The Bennettsville police chief told me he's implementing a new policy where if an officer wants to drop a charge, they'll have to now go before a judge and do it in open court. The penalty for not doing this ranges from suspension to termination. The chief's goal to prevent this from ever happening again.
They full of shit. Opinionated 3 stacks out.